The 1977 Atlanta Falcons. Folks, these birds weren't just grounded. They were buried 6 feet under. Their offense that year? A robust 129 points. That's roughly 9 points a game. In the modern NFL, a team gets that by accident in a single quarter. They went 7-7. Just kidding. They went 7-7 against the spread, maybe. They finished 3-11, but honestly, that's just the stat line. The feeling of watching them was probably closer to 0-14. They were shut out 5 times. 5? That's not football. That's a protest against scoring. You think that's bad? Hold my Gatorade. Because our next team managed to achieve something truly special. They made losing look like an art form. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the undisputed champions of starting from scratch and staying there for a while. Their inaugural 1976 season, a masterpiece of futility. 0-14, 0 wins, 14 losses. Think about that for a second. Every single game, they woke up, got dressed, and decided, you know what? Not today, or any day this season. They scored a grand total of 125 points, while giving up 412. That's a point differential that looks like my golf score on a really bad day. The only thing they led the league in was moral victories, and even those were probably just rumors. If you thought getting swept was bad, imagine being so bad, you accidentally invent a new kind of bad. Our next team did just that, and it's a doozy. The Detroit Lions. Bless their hearts. For years, they've been the NFL's lovable losers. But in 2008, they dropped the lovable part and went full-on historical dumpster fire. 0-16. The only team in NFL history to go winless in a 16-game season. Matt Millen was running the show, and let's just say his GM tenure was less roaring lion and more purring kitten getting stuck in a tree. They weren't just losing, they were setting records for losing. It was so bad, even their mascot probably considered retirement. And the saddest part? Most Lions fans probably just shrugged and said, yeah, sounds about right. Speaking of historical stinkers, what happens when a team famous for its rich history decides to take a sabbatical from winning? You get this next entry. The Cleveland Browns. Oh, Cleveland. The dog pound has endured more barking at bad football than any fan base deserves. And while their 2017-016 season is fresh in everyone's minds, let's rewind to their post-expansion era's darkest hour, the 1999 season. Coming back into the league as an expansion team, they finished 2-14. But it wasn't just the record. It was the absolute soul-crushing ineptitude. Tim Couch was getting sacked more often than a bank on a Monday morning. They were outscored by almost 200 points. It was less of a return and more of a cautionary tale. It was so bad, fans probably thought the original Browns were still better. From one expansion team's woes to another, though this next squad managed to make even the Browns' return look slightly competent. The Carolina Panthers burst onto the scene in 1995, and while their second season was surprisingly good, their first was, well, let's call it character building. They finished 7-9. Wait, that's not their worst. That was decent for an expansion team. No. Their true moment of pathetic brilliance came in 2001, after winning Super Bowl 38 the year before. I'm kidding, that was 2003. Their 2001 season was a colossal collapse. They started 1 and then lost 15 straight games to finish 1-15. From a promising start to a historic nosedive, it was a season that redefined hitting the wall. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion, except the car was a Panthers logo and the crash lasted 15 weeks. You might think 1-15 is tough to beat for sheer awfulness, but our next team proved that with enough effort, or lack thereof, anything is possible. The Cincinnati Bengals, a franchise that has, at times, been synonymous with frustration. While they've had a few dreadful seasons, the 1993 squad stands out. They went 3-13, but the way they did it was truly special. They managed to win their first 2 games, giving fans a glimmer of hope. only to then lose 12 of their next 13. This wasn't just a losing streak. It was an extended meditation on failure. Their defense was historically bad, giving up almost 29 points a game. Watching them was like watching a reenactment of a slow-motion train wreck, but the train was made of orange and black stripes. Speaking of teams that looked like they were actively trying to lose, our next entry took the concept of rebuilding and turned it into demolishing the entire foundation. The St. Louis Rams, before they packed their bags for Hollywood, had a few seasons they'd rather forget, but none quite as forgettable as 2009. This was post-greatest show on turf, post-Super Bowl, and deep into the dark ages. They went 1-15, their lone victory. A Week 6 win against the Lions, which, let's be honest, almost doesn't count. They were offensively challenged, defensively porous, and generally just not good. It was so bad, their fans probably started rooting for the Cardinals, the baseball ones, obviously. It was a season that made you question if they even knew what a football was. From a team that seemed lost to a team that just seemed cursed. Our next entry's season was a masterclass in snatch defeat from the jaws of, well, more defeat. The Arizona Cardinals, a franchise with a history of being the other team in their divisions, had their share of rough patches. But 1986, when they were still the St. Louis Cardinals, was particularly brutal. They finished 4-11-1. The tie, mind you, was against the Philadelphia Eagles. But it wasn't just the record. It was the persistent feeling of almost, but not quite. They had a decent offense, but a defense that resembled a sieve. It was a season where every Sunday felt like Groundhog Day. But instead of Bill Murray, you got another Cardinals loss. If you thought bad defense was a problem, what about a team that couldn't score if their lives depended on it? This next team offers a clinic in offensive stagnation. The 1981 Baltimore Colts didn't just hit rock bottom, they set up camp there and started charging admission. Finishing with a dismal 2-14 record, this squad remains the gold standard for defensive ineptitude in the modern era. They surrendered a staggering 533 points over the course of the season, averaging more than 33 points per game, which stood as a league record for decades. Their point differential of -274 tells the story of a team that wasn't just losing, but getting systematically dismantled week after week. The irony of their season was that their only 2 victories came against the New England Patriots by a combined total of just 3 points. Take those away, and you're looking at a winless disaster that would rival the worst teams in history. The misery on the field was perfectly mirrored by the chaos in the front office, under the erratic ownership of Robert Irsay. The hiring of head coach Frank Kush only added fuel to the fire, as his drill sergeant personality and brutal coaching style alienated players and staff alike. This toxic environment led to the most infamous draft snub in NFL history, when the 1983 number 1 overall pick, John Elway, flatly refused to play for the franchise, threatening to join the New York Yankees baseball team instead. This forced the Colts to trade away a generational talent for a pittance, effectively handicapping the franchise's future before it even started. The final act of this pathetic era wasn't a game, but a heist. On the snowy night of March 28, 1984, fearing the Maryland state legislature would seize the team through eminent domain, Irsay ordered a fleet of Mayflower moving trucks to the team's facility. In the dead of night, the franchise's entire physical history, from Johnny Unitas's records to the office staplers, was packed up and driven to Indianapolis. Baltimore fans woke up to an empty building and a ghost of a franchise, ending one of the most storied chapters in NFL history, not with a bang or a trophy, but with a fleet of trucks slipping away in the dark. We now have a team that set the standard for being absolutely, unequivocally, historically awful, the New Orleans Saints. Now, they've had their share of ups and downs, but their inaugural 1967 season holds a special place in the Hall of Shame. They went 3-11. But forget the record, it's how they did it. They allowed 445 points and scored only 233. And who could forget the immortal words of their radio announcer, calling their first ever play a John Gilliam kick return for a touchdown? It was a glorious moment, quickly followed by years of suffering. It was a season that proved that even with a divine name, you can still be terribly earthly.